Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. I was chillaxing. I thought it was 12:55. It's great to be here at PyCon again. I was in Florence 2 years ago. It was amazing. And thank you all for taking the time to join me for this session. However, I might take you on a wild ride. The last time I gave a talk, I somehow managed to break the clicker, mess out the sound port on the computer, and my phone died right before on stage. So I had to borrow everything. So with that in mind, keep your expectations delightfully low and prepare for a few unplanned pauses. But isn't that what makes message queuing so great? It handles these pauses, like when a publisher is sending more messages than a consumer can handle. And it helps recover from issues when things go wrong. Depending on who you ask, the story about RabbitMQ might be told differently, but today it's my story. I will guide you through the history of RabbitMQ, according to me. 2007 was the year of the first iPhone release. Back then, I played a lot of football. I liked dancing in the rain, dancing in the night. I also liked tapping on my computer. But I was also deeply into gaming. Counter-Strike was my gateway into tech, setting up gaming servers in the closet and hosting LAN parties in the basement was a true adventure. We spent hours running cables, troubleshooting connections, just to craft this ultimate gaming setup. 2007 also saw the launch of RabbitMQ, a message broker initially built to tackle communication problems, especially in the area of finance. That was 2007. A lot has changed since, including me today. I love the windy days. It gets me out on the water, kite surfing. I love the sunny days, just like it's here today. I could actually move here. It would be so nice. I like the first days of snow. It means I can take out the skis, go skiing, which I can't do here, I guess, but pretty close. What I don't like is the rain. But somehow I taught my kids that when it's raining, we celebrate and we go out and dance in the rain, and this is super cute. Until it happens at 6 a.m. in the morning, and they come running into the bedroom screaming, "Mom, it's time to get up. We need to go out and dance in the rain." And just like that, all the calm is gone. It's suddenly a lot of noise, activity, multiple kids trying to talk at once. They're pulling my sleeves, each with their urgent need. Digital systems, they experience this too when they are hit by too many requests at once. And that overwhelming, everyone talking at the same time, that's exactly what message brokers are designed to handle. Buffering the load, decoupling services, and keeping things flowing. With a queue, it's like forming an ordinary line. Each request gets handled one by one, and nothing gets dropped. Acting as a middleman between microservices is one of the most common use for message brokers, so we will look at 2 examples of that. Let's say you have just finished a run like I just did. You checked your app to see where you are in the leaderboard, if you set a new personal best on the course you ran. The IT architecture for this app is divided into different parts. Behind the scenes, a bunch of services, they work together, and these services include tracking the run, updating the leaderboard, and displaying the route on your app, on the map on the app. Building each service in the architecture is usually the easiest part, but somehow you need to, most of the time they do not exist in isolation. You need to coordinate and get these to communicate. And this is where threads of complexity starts to unreveal. And as far as communication, especially in microservices goes, 2 popular approaches graces the stage. We have asynchronous HTTPS and asynchronous lightweight messaging. And even though HTTPS communication might seem simple at first, it has some downsides. HTTPS communication tends to be tightly coupled due to its synchronous nature, requiring an immediate response at each request. But in reality, everything doesn't need an immediate answer. The leaderboard in the Workup app don't have to be updated the exact same millisecond as your race is saved. To handle millions of users, the communication between these services instead takes place via a queue, and in this case, through a message broker and in RabbitMQ. When the gym closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, more people started to run, more people started to use apps, and queues here helped to scale this app by lining up the task that needed to be done. So even if a lot of more people started to do workout at the exact same time, it just waited in line and was handled when possible. Another company that has built their infrastructure around microservices and queues is Parkster. It's a car parking app company. A sudden load, such as many users trying to pay at once, then these requests can be buffered up in queues, ensuring the system stay responsive. So we can look here. It's designed to remain operational even when part of the backend process is delayed or broken, like the payment service that we see here. So customer can have confidence when parking, as the system is designed to remain accessible even if this payment service is down. It also allowed them to use a different technology stack for each service. We have around 30 microservices in our architecture, mainly using Ruby, but also Python. That's why I've added Ruby here to this example. So this architecture means they can optimize services for the job, like making a performance-critical one very fast without affecting the other services in the system. The different services can also be maintained by different teams if they want that, and also if they need to scale one part of the system. For example, the email service needs to scale, then they can scale that little service instead of scaling the whole application. This, of course, also saves some resources if you just have to scale a little part instead of the whole thing. There are, of course, many message brokers built in different ways. Some follow their own design, like Apache Kafka. They have their own their own protocol, while others are built around a common protocol, like AMQP, Advanced Message Queuing Protocol. It's a standard messaging protocol, kind of like HTTP is for the web and SMTP is for mail, but instead, it defines how services exchange messages in a reliable way with built-in support for flow control, acknowledgements, and delivery guarantees, and a lot of other stuff. Back in 2007, RabbitMQ was one of the first message brokers to implement the AMQ protocol. And RabbitMQ being open source from start was free for developers and companies to use. It attracted more users, especially as companies faced growing demands around data and user traffic. And if we take, for example, e-commerce around 2007, it started to grow a lot. And we started to have these events like Black Friday, which required that we had a platform that could scale with this growing industry. Just before coming here, I met up with some customers in Toronto, just last Monday, actually. They're using Celery with RabbitMQ to handle background tasks like message processing and API calls. And Celery is one of the most popular task queues in Python, and it's been around from, I don't know exactly, but I guess around 2009 when it came. And RabbitMQ was the default message broker from start. What I think was interesting in Toronto was that the customer I was visiting, they were not really knowing about RabbitMQ in the background. They just knew they pushed things to Celery, and they didn't really know how it worked in the background. So we did a really long workshop. It was super fun. Side story. What they did is that they defined tasks in Python, and when the application needs to run something in the background, like sending an email or processing a file, Celery sends that task to RabbitMQ. RabbitMQ is queuing up the work, and Celery workers process it asynchronously. We have a lot of Celery users. We have 15,000 servers today, and a lot of them are running Celery. After I finished my studies, I found myself on the beautiful island of Mauritius, and I spent a lot of time diving and working with system development. My colleague, or my university classmate, Carl, he was also busy diving in Bali, and this is where he started a service called CloudAMQP. And for over a decade now, we have been providing top-tier RabbitMQ servers in the cloud through CloudAMQP. And we have also seen significant growth, both in the industry and both in our company. We are today recognized as one of Europe's fastest growing companies. And this is pretty cool, considering we are just a software as a service company for an open source software. I jumped on this project not long after 2014, and I must admit it was not really love at first sight between me and RabbitMQ. Initially, it felt complex. It was overwhelming with queues, challenges, protocols, connections, bindings, dead lettering, and every features that you can find. But over time and through hands-on experience, and I saw real customer cases, and I started to compare it with other brokers, I started to see its strength. And I found myself learning RabbitMQ at the same pace as I was teaching it and explaining it to others. And I have, during the years, been writing super many blogs, I don't even know how many, but also books around RabbitMQ. And one of the first features that really clicked for me was routing and how powerful the routing can be. It should be straightforward to direct messages where they need to go, whether it means broadcasting to many consumers or targeting a specific group or filtering by topic. And with RabbitMQ, you don't need to add a bunch of extra logic to make that happen. This is, how does this then actually work? We have the publisher who is responsible of making the message. In this message, it includes something called a routing key. Then it sends the message to the broker, and where the message ends up first is in the exchange, is the circle here in the picture. Then you bound queues to the exchange, and you bind them with a routing key, also called a binding key, on them. And then they match these routing keys on the message with the routing key on the binding. And the most flexible type of exchange is the topic exchange, and I will show that a little bit. And this might be a little bit complicated, but the meaning is to show that it's easy to work with when you know how to work with it. So I will give a concrete example. Imagine you're collecting metrics from different services running in multiple regions. So we have a schema like this, region.service.metrics. Each service then sends metrics like CPU, memory, disk, and so on to this. And here you can use routing keys, like you see here, EU-west.backend.cpu and EU-west.database.memory, and so on. This is just examples. And now you can bind different queues using wildcards. We have the star or asterisk that matches exactly one word. And then we have the hash, where you match 0 or more words. So if we have a queue bound with EU-west.hash, we will get everything from the European West region. So it will just look at the first word, and then it will take everything after that. Then we have another queue with hash.cpu. It will receive all CPU metrics, no matter region or service. So here it just looks at what's at the end of this routing key. And here we can see that we get AUS.backend and US East.server, and all the CPU information will go there. A logging system could also subscribe to everything by adding a hash. So this could be useful for centralized monitoring, for example. We are using this when we are collecting server data from our customers, and then we send it to integrations like Datadog and so on. It's a simple idea that scales really, really well. RabbitMQ comes with a user-friendly interface, and you can add queues, set up exchanges, send messages, all from the web browser. And back around the time of 2015, the RabbitMQ release 3.6 came, and it gave us some serious troubles. There was a memory leak in the statistic database. It was fixed pretty fast, but it was still really long nights. We were just 3 people in the team. So we had to be up all night troubleshooting these out-of-memory errors. Back then, RabbitMQ also handled message differently than they do today. Before version 3.6, messages were mostly kept in RAM, and only flushed to disk when the memory was running low. And that approach worked really well until it didn't. So under high load, it meant RabbitMQ sometimes had to dump a large volume of data to a disk all at once, which then caused performance issues for us, and we had to deal with that. But 3.6 introduced something called lazy queues. Instead of holding all messages in memory, lazy queues then wrote them directly to disk instead. And this reduced memory usage and made RabbitMQ much more stable. So instead of going like this when there was a peak of messages, it went flat. We quickly adopted lazy queues as the default for our multi-tenant servers at Cloud InQP. We have free users that are sharing the same RabbitMQ server. So here we put lazy queues directly. The same year, 2015, we also started hosting other services. We were still 3 people. We were hosting RabbitMQ, Apache Kafka, Postgres, and Mosquito MQTT. And it was around this time, I think, I started to feel more for RabbitMQ more and more, because I didn't really like Kafka. RabbitMQ's flexibility, ease of use, and ability to handle enough data for most use cases won me over. Fast forward to 2019 and RabbitMQ 3.8. It's my favorite release. 3.8 introduced quorum queues. And these replicated queues ensure data safety through a leader and follower replica architecture, where the followers provide redundancy. If we quickly compare them to classic queues, we have the core difference in that classic queues, they are fast and they are feature-rich, and they are on a single node, lacking high availability since version 4.0 version that we have right now. They offer things like time to live, queue length, limits, and priority of messages. Quorum queues, on the other hand, ensure data safety and HI through replication across a multi-node cluster setup. Typically, you have 3 or 5 nodes using Raft for leader election. Streams were introduced during 2021, making RabbitMQ an attractive option for users seeking Kafka-like features in a RabbitMQ environment instead. Of course, we also need to compare them compare streaming to classic queues. In a classic model, a message goes in. One consumer picks this message up and processes it, and then it's gone. Messages are usually handled in the order they arrive, first in, first out, and the goal is to distribute work efficiently across services. RabbitMQ handles streaming as a persistent append-only log, meaning messages stay in the queue even after they have been read. Here, multiple consumers can read the same message, each at their own pace. Each consumer tracks their position in the stream using something called an offset, and if needed, they can reset this offset to reprocess past messages again. And how do then this work? How does it look in practice? Here we have a customer running a website tracking system. Every click, every view, everything falls into a stream. The marketing team watches this stream to see which campaigns that drives engagement. At the same time, the product team, they look at the same event to spot usability issues. And the recommendation engine, they tap onto the same stream to suggest content in real time. Now, for example, if the recommendation engine falls behind for some reason, if there's a spike in traffic or something like that, the other team, they are not affected. They can process the same stream at their own pace. And later, the product team can rewind and replay yesterday's traffic to test a new feature without distributing the live feed. And this is where streaming really shines. Use cases like audit logs, live dashboards, system recovery, and personalized experiences. In 2023, RabbitMQ added support for MQTT, which led us to phase out our own MQTT service. It was called Cloud MQTT. It doesn't exist anymore. The same happened when, with our Kafka hosting, RabbitMQ streams matured enough that we could focus on one solid solution instead of having 4 different products running. Since I started, I have worked mainly with version 3, but this last year, RabbitMQ was released in version 4.0, and I hope it will treat us well. For us, version 4 means deprecation of something called classic mirrored queues. And we are really looking forward to more people moving away from this classic mirrored queues, since it has been, we want to see less performance slowdowns and data sync problems. A common use case for message queuing systems is managing a high volume of email deliveries, particularly businesses that are sending thousands of emails or even operating an email automation service. Message queues plays a critical role in helping this system scale by decoupling the generation of the emails and the request of the actually processing of sending this email. So they send the request to the message broker, and then the one sending the email receives the message and sends the message. Another use case for message queuing is in the workflow solution for manufacturing. This is a company called Rever. Here it allows users to report observations, safety hazards, and improvement ideas from the factory floor via a phone or an iPad or something like that. And at the heart of their infrastructure, they have RabbitMQ ensuring seamless communication between all the services they have. So each user-generated request or report is encapsulated as a message and published to RabbitMQ, which then routes this message to the appropriate backend service for processing, analysis, and storage. And these messages might later trigger workflows such as automated alerts to supervisors or updates to safety dashboards. And they are today sending hundreds and thousands of messages per day. Many modern applications require real-time communication between backend systems and users. And WebSockets makes this possible by enabling persistent two-way communication between a client, often a browser, and a server. And this opens up for a range of practical use cases. For example, live monitoring dashboards that reflect backend changes instantly. And in these systems, RabbitMQ acts as a reliable and scalable message broker, while the WebSocket serves as the delivery channel to the end users. And one example of this in production is Visman. It's a leader in heating and cooling technology. So the system pushes status updates to RabbitMQ. The backend service consumes the message and forwards them to via WebSockets, providing a real-time feedback from the physical devices directly to the user interface. At Cloud MQP, we have seen RabbitMQ manage real-time updates and keep everything organized in many taxi and logistic firms, where they, among other things, constantly are sharing GPS data through RabbitMQ. We have seen RabbitMQ in some of the world's most recognized companies. We have customers. We have seen customers, including several of the world's most famous car brands, one of the world's largest breweries, a newspaper in the US that reaches 65 million readers a month, where queues handle everything from breaking news alerts to lining up articles and that will go live and so on. And a large company for payment solutions. And we have seen it in health journal systems, in governments, and I could keep on mentioning almost every part of society. But I will not do that. Instead, I will show RabbitMQ is also used in a wide range of use cases across all these industries, from work queues so in microservices to IoT, where it connects devices and systems, whether in warehouse or smart homes. It also bridges legacy systems and modern architecture, like when you have an old stack that you want to move to something new. A message queue is also sometimes often used, and with streams, as you saw with the example of the web shop. I just wanted to show this picture also. We have, as I said, 15,000 servers. This is the spread of the programming language used. And Python is the second most programming language with the client library Pika. So I will wrap up this session. AMQP, it's been a long time. It's been here a long time. It's trusted by me and many others. RabbitMQ supports a wide range of use cases, from IoT till real-time streaming or acting as a middleman in between microservices. It scales really well. In fact, we have never seen a customer's outgrow a single RabbitMQ server. And it's easy to use with built-in HTTP-based management interface. So RabbitMQ has shaped my journey and many others. It's powerful, practical, and dependable. And I'm especially grateful for the community. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Lovisa. Thank you. We ran a bit of overtime, but there is the lunch session, so I don't think we are really pressed for closing. So if you want and go and have lunch, you can go. But so please feel free, because we are really over time. So feel free to go and. But we have a few questions, so maybe I'll ask a few questions that you might be interested in the answers. So one is there a guarantee that the first message put in the RabbitMQ queue will be processed first?
Yes. It depends. It depends, as always. If there is one consumer, the message will be processed first. If there is a lot of consumers, the message will be first in line, but then it depends how long time the consumer will take to process this message.
Okay.
So it will go first out, but it's not sure that the consumer that processes it is faster than the second message. I complicate this stuff, but.
How do you monitor spikes in RabbitMQ messages in production? Since RabbitMQ hosts sample statistical data in every 30 to 60 seconds, we miss a small outage which happens less than 30 seconds ago. Any tips?
Sorry, can you?
This is the
It was
question.
a long question.
Yeah.
Is this from the management interface? Or?
We can skip to the next one, and maybe the person that asked the question can reach out to the speaker and explain better. Can you compare the latency of a lazy queue with regular queues? I guess that this CRED will be slower than memory read, but how much?
Yeah, the lazy queues are slower, but now it's built into the classic queues. They are all using lazy queues, but not lazy queues. It's rebuilt. So it's actually pretty fast in the new classic queues.
Is RabbitMQ always preferred over something lighter, like Mosquito?
We like RabbitMQ much because we have the acknowledgement. We have publish, confirm. We have acknowledgement of messages. It also feels more stable than our MQTT Mosquito service that we were running.
Okay. And you mentioned Kafka. Was it straightforward to replace it with RabbitMQ? Is there anything that Kafka can do and other MQ systems not?
There are, of course, things that Kafka can do that RabbitMQ can't do. Log compression, for example, doesn't exist in RabbitMQ.
Okay, so thank you again, Lovisa. And, Thank you all for staying.